ha ha. Surprise, surprise. He did it, didn't he? As predicted. Ethan Ewing, the GOAT. Bantamweight, going up in weight on short notice. Beats Malcolm Wellmaker in the main event of UFC 322. That was spectacular. The performance was spectacular, which I was fully expecting, by the way. Ethan Ewing, I could have seen it from a mile away. Watched him on the regional scene. Beautiful body work, nasty hands, probably some of the best hands that we honestly have right now. The dude looked incredible with the hands. Of course, Malcolm Wellmaker stuck in there. He showed that he's not necessarily a fraud, because I do believe that this was honestly just a massive step up in competition for Malcolm Wellmaker. People just were not privy to how elite Ethan Ewing actually is. The man, the professor finesser. This dude is coming for everything. I don't want anyone to be doubting Ethan Ewing. He has a crazy head as well. Man, the shape of that head, he has a Drew Dober head with elite skills, right? He's essentially Ilia Topuria with Letterman's skill, and I'll hear nothing else about Ethan Ewing. Crazy performance. One of the best probably the best fight of the night, to be honest, and one of the best fights of this year, dude. I was thoroughly entertained. Yeah, man. Big credit for Ethan Ewing for showing out for us in the main event of UFC 322. That shit was captivating. I loved the performance. Super well-rounded. Man just flows in there. Looked really undersized as well. And just bit down in the mouthpiece and pieced up Malcolm Wellmaker. Well-deserved. I was very afraid that the judges would potentially rob Ethan Ewing. But I think regardless of if he ended up winning the fight or not, he proved with that performance alone that he deserves a spot on the roster without a doubt. I mean, there are some cans getting signed each and every single day, and Ethan Ewing is not one of them. So let's go, dude. Ethan Ewing, big performance. Cannot wait to see him again. That's my GOAT now, man. That is my GOAT. Okay, now let's move swiftly on to some insignificant fights. Oh, Jack Della Maddalena. He got fucking dominated, man. He got dominated just like Hamzat dominated DDP, man. Dude, this is so cursed. The most anticipated fights of this year, all of them, all three of them now at this point. DDP Hamzat, Weili, Valentina, and Islam fucking Jack Della Maddalena, Giacomo. They all go in the exact same way. Now, I can never deny that it's impressive or that it's dominant. I can never deny that, of course. But man, is it too much to ask for a little bit of excitement in these big main events? It's a little bit, it's a little bit too much to ask for, I feel, man. Because, realistically, an early finish would have been so much more impactful. It would have impacted me in some way. But once this fight was finished, just like DDP versus Hamzat, unfortunately, I was just left feeling completely empty inside, and I no longer cared, which sucks, because I do love the back and forth with the fans and the detractors, right? The ones who like to talk some shit with me and all that. I love that type of dynamic. However, I just don't really give a shit because this fight was so uneventful. Regardless of how uneventful it was extremely dominant from Islam Makhachev. The guy actually looked like a bear in there. And I'm done questioning whether these caucus fighters moving up in weight will be big enough for the weight class. You know what? Yeah, it's done. Yes, they're big enough. They're strong enough. Islam looked humongous in there. He looked so fucking thick, dude. Those traps looked like he had inflated them pre-fight or some shit. Just huge. He looked so big, so strong. We did get to see some more work on the feet than we did get to see with DDP Hamzat, but if we're being real, man, the enjoyment factor is on a similar level, right? At least with Hamzat, we got to see those funny little crucifix, little pop shots to the fucking ear over and over again, right? The ear shots. But here we did get to see Islam chew up the leg of JDM. Just a really bad performance from JDM, but not to say that it's because of JDM not showing up. No, it's because Islam just dominated him, right? JDM couldn't get anything going on the feet. He looked afraid to throw anything, and then his front leg in southpaw was chewed up, right? His right leg. And he's not as confident fighting out of orthodox, obviously, right? So, a simple game plan from Islam Makhachev and perfectly executed. Chew up the front leg and then shoot takedowns, right? Because, as we know, JDM is not as comfortable fighting out of orthodox. So very well executed there. The wrestling was insane. The top control is insane. Yeah, he chased some submissions here and there. But yeah, it was incredibly boring. Although, listen, I'm not going to cry and say the sport's ruined, because this is not the first time, nor will it be the last time that this will happen. is Islam Makhachev the GOAT off the back of this? I would say that he's definitely in the GOAT conversation with this win. It's an elite win for me. He moved up. Like for me, this win over Jack is potentially more impressive than GSP's win over Bisping. The only thing holding me back from saying that altogether is the fact that GSP was off for so long before coming back. But then again, Bisping is one of the worst champions of all time. But at least he had a title defense, but against like a 45-year-old Dan Henderson or some shit, which he arguably lost anyway. So yeah, man, this is a huge win for Islam. I struggle to say that he's outright the GOAT because I think it's probably between someone like, depending on if you factor John Jones into the equation. Of course, John Jones would be ahead of Islam if you even include him at all. But for me, GSP is just slightly ahead, but it's really just down to how you weigh up their respective resumes, right? Islam has now tied the all-time win streak record. That's huge, right? He has a belt at welterweight now. That's huge for him. He's picked up wins against all-timers in their prime, right? Volkanovski and Charles Oliveira, to be specific. And now he has a win over a champion in an upper weight class who, in my opinion, looked like a world beater last time out. He's cracked some pretty big win streaks, and there's really nothing to take away from him there other than the fact that, yeah, man, he almost put me to sleep during my most anticipated fight of the year, the fight that I said was the most important of all time. I just wish that it was more eventful. That's all, man. Like, I really don't care about the results of fights. The best man wins, and that was Islam Makhachev on the night. For sure it was. I mean, JDM did nothing in that fight to win the fight. There were a few moments in the pocket, right, in the clinch. Those moments I was picking out in my breakdown where he was able to land a few body shots. He landed a couple of decent shots in the fight. But, dude, it was one-way traffic for the entire time, and there's really no other way to see it. JDM is definitely to blame partially for this fight being boring. We thought that he had much greater scrambling ability than he showed to have against Islam. But yeah, clearly, as people who were picking Islam were saying, Islam is just a level above Belal. Clearly, yes, that is the case, right? With the grappling technique and the ability to hold top control, yes, without a doubt, he is levels above Belal, of course, as shown here. And JDM made some very silly decisions. I think he even shot for a takedown, which resulted him ending up in bottom position once again. So very rough look from JDM, but I'm not switching up on the guy, of course. Stylistically, I still love to watch the guy fight. I really do, man. JDM, and I felt so bad for him here. Oh, God. He looked like he was on the verge of tears going into round 5. And he is such a normal dude, just like a chill dude, family guy. So it's unfortunate to see him in that state, right? To be completely dominated and to be so dejected. Not something I'm used to seeing from JDM whatsoever. So it was a rough look, man. As a fan of JDM's, it was a rough look to see him like that, man. It was kind of sad. It was definitely sad. And hopefully this loss doesn't destroy his confidence because, like, the 170-pound division is so stacked right now with a variety of different contenders. I'm not sure how many of those will be able to deal with Islam's wrestling, right? That's a different question altogether, but it looks to me like Islam may end up skirting all of those competitors, not because he's ducking them or whatever, but it's clear that Islam probably wants names on the resume, right? And Kamaru Usman being probably the second greatest welterweight of all time, Islam is now looking for that one, which I would definitely pick Islam in because Usman is just way past his best, right? And then we will probably expect him to get that fight against Ilya, and that is the biggest fight of all time it is, right? Double champ technically versus double champ technically. Of course, that is the most massive fight that could ever be put on as far as stakes goes. That's humongous, of course it is. But as far as what's next for JDM, I say Jack versus Shavkat Rakhmonov upon his return. I think that one makes all the sense in the world. Shit would be a banger, in my personal opinion. I don't think that Shavkat would be able to do on the ground to Jack what Islam did to him. I think it could be more along the lines of what we saw between Jack and Belal, assuming that Jack isn't completely destroyed by this loss, dude, because oh, God. Oh, I'm just picturing his face right now, man. The dude looked so fucking sad out there. Disappointing his family probably was on his mind. And, disappointing his team, disappointing his fans. But it's all good, Jack. I'll never switch up on you. Still a big fan. I'm rooting for your return. Regardless, congratulations, Islam Makhachev. That was some serious dominance. And to the ones who will say that wasn't actually dominant because he just held him for 5 rounds, I get what you're trying to say. But if you can hold another grown man down for as long as Islam held JDM down, you have dominated that man. And also, I will say this too, GSP is the greatest fighter of all time, in my opinion, and much of his title run looked exactly like that fight there from Islam. I have to say that I get it that it's frustrating in the moment to watch boring fights play out, but the current GOAT of the sport, in my personal opinion, like I said, had many fights just like this. It's not like every one of Islam's fights turns out like this, and I think that if we do see a fight between Islam and Usman, we'll see a lot more interesting of a matchup that will play out more so on the feet, I would think, right? So I'm not going to outright just shit on Islam and say he's a boring champion, because historically speaking, he's given us no real reason to think that about him. But that does conclude my thoughts on this fight. Let's move on to the rest of the card, going top to bottom. Valentina, yep, she dominated Weili Zhang, and it was arguably even more uneventful than the main event. It's really unfortunate when certain fighters get their way, how they just slow down the pace to a screeching halt and just bore everyone to tears. I get the dominance, I understand that, but sometimes it honestly appears as if Valentina is purposefully trying to get the fight to the scorecards. There's really not a whole lot to speak on here. Valentina looked really good, and I think just looked way bigger than Weili in there as well. I think much bigger than people expected her to look on fight night. And it seemed like every single time Valentina landed anything on Weili could not handle it. It was like she was getting hit the hardest she had ever been hit before. Dude, Valentina manhandled her in a similar fashion how she manhandled Ioana and Jacek. These ladies need to stop coming up against Valentina from lower weight classes. It's just not going to work. What's next for Valentina, I have no clue. I would imagine she'll probably try and go after either Kayla Harrison now, assuming that Amanda Nunes is not returning anytime soon, or she'll probably go up against the winner of that fight. And that would easily, with a win over either one of those two, would solidify her as the greatest female fighter of all time. For me, yeah, I mean, like off the back of a boring-ass performance like that, of course, I don't want to say that she's the greatest female fighter of all time, but arguably she is. She has a crazy resume, and she arguably even has a win over Amanda Nunes on there. Some people say two. I would argue probably one win over Amanda Nunes is pretty fair to say. But yeah, man, very dominant. Weili Zhang got manhandled in there, and it was a pretty fucking bleak sight. It really was, man. Michael Morales is overpowered. It's pretty nuts. I'm not sure what Sean Brady was thinking. I think he was far too willing to strike with Michael Morales. I mean, he took the path of most resistance. Didn't really make sense to me. But it's like every time Michael Morales lands any sort of shot, half clean, does not matter. He puts you on wobbly legs. It's nuts. He's so big. He throws just the craziest thudding blows I've ever seen. It's fucking scary, man. But he's missing a lot of technique, and that's the thing, right? He has bad footwork, and his technique is not impressive whatsoever. He just hits so damn hard, and he's so fucking physical. He's so damn big in there. I think a sharp, powerful striker like Carlos Pratz, if these two were to go up against each other for a title eliminator, I think Pratz beats him because I just think he's way sharper. But holy shit, it's crazy how easy Morales makes it. He just has to land. It's fucking nuts, dude. It's nuts. Like, Morales is a scary dude. He's so scary. Carlos Pratz essentially starched Leon Edwards with just a innocuous little straight left. Dude, Pratz's power is so crazy. The leverage he gets on his shots, right, being that lanky dude. Him and Morales, like I said, they have to go up against each other. These are two of the biggest hitters we've ever seen at 170. These guys have some serious game-changing power, so we have to see them go up against each other. I think neither one, in my opinion at least, should get the title shot outright. They should fight one another to see who fights. But then again, Ian Gary and Bilal is another fight that could set up a title shot. But like, would you, if Bilal beats Ian Gary, would you want to see Bilal versus Islam, or would they even fight each other? I'm not even sure. So maybe we should just outright do Pratz versus fucking Islam, or, you know what I mean, Morales versus Islam, but then Islam wants to fight Usman. So it does kind of logjam 170 right now at the moment when I think about it. But holy shit, man, let's just get back onto the performance. Looked great. Leon Edwards, he offensively wrestled quite effectively, right, which I did call out my prediction. I said if he did that, maybe he could pick up a victory here. But once he stood with Pratz for any long period of time, it just seemed inevitable that Pratz would eventually land that left hand. When he did, took Leon off of his feet. Leon smiles at Pratz. It's like he accepted his fate. He like fully accepted that he was going to get finished right there. And then after the finishing shot lands, he's still smiling. He's smiling at the ref. I just feel like he was okay with losing that. I don't know. It's weird, dude. Leon might be on his way out. I'm not too sure. Maybe I read too much into the smile. Maybe he was just punched into another fucking dimension and forgot where he was. That's also very, very possible. But what a performance from Pratz. This dude is just unreal with that power, dude. That left hand has an off button on it. Fantastic work. Dude is so sharp. Great performance. BSD starches Beneil in the first round, and BSD is not even somebody who typically has very much power, so maybe this is a good time for Beneil Dariush to hang up the gloves. It's just like one little right hook in the clinch on the ear, and it completely slept him. It was a strange look, but a great win for BSD. I will never complain about a BSD title run. The guy is just so much fun to watch. Murad's forward. And this is such a good win for him. This is really good to get that first round KO like that, when many people were expecting him to lose this one, including myself. Yeah, man, thank you, BSD, for proving me wrong, because ultimately BSD having this win under his belt is much more consequential in the 155-pound division than Beneil picking up that win against BSD. So I'm very happy for this result. Congratulations, BSD. You're one of the few Frenchmen who I fuck with. Bo Nickal picked up the highlight of his career. I'll be honest, leading up to the knockout itself, I wasn't overly impressed by Bo's performance. I just think that this was such a massive step down in competition from RDR, and the fact that Bo Nickal appeared to massively outsize Hidalgo in there. Honestly, they didn't even look to be the same weight class. It was very strange looking. I didn't even realize that Bo was that big. He actually has a fucking huge frame when you're not seeing him in there with RDR. The dude's frame is humongous, but it really was just like left hand spam over and over again. I really saw nothing much different from Bo, although he was utilizing the jab much more effectively. So that is one aspect of his game that I will say looked to have improved. But yeah, just the left hand spam, I believe, won't get him very far. But that high kick, no one can deny how nasty that high kick was. Another fucking like straight up murder high kick, right? Quillen style. Now we get Bo Nickal throwing that shit. Not the kind of finish you would expect from Bo Nickal, but exactly what he needed here, because after his last performance, coming out here with a big finish like that, one of the best knockouts of the year, is a huge statement for Bo Nickal to make. So congratulations, Bo Nickal. You're on the comeback trail, baby. Another victory for Robocop, and I will be totally real here. I picked Robocop. I was rooting for Robocop, but I will say Roman Kopylov lost himself this fight with his inactivity. I feel like if he pushed the pace on Gregory, he could have actually finished Gregory here. Gregory is somewhat chinny. He is pretty much a glass cannon. And I understand that, the jab was landing from Gregory. And Gregory was honestly landing at a pretty high clip. I feel like he was very predictable in there, but Kopylov was refusing to take his opportunities. He even rocked Gregory in the third round and still didn't push the action. He needs to increase his activity because he's very fast. And I feel like he had Gregory so outmatched with the speed, but he was letting Gregory go first every single time and wasn't really answering back with anything. So I'm happy that Robocop picked up the win because I'm a big fan of his. But Roman, you got to pick up the pace, man. You cannot just become the middleweight Leon Edwards out there and expect to make it far. It's unfortunate, but this fight was actually a lot of fun, especially that second round, dude. Robocop was just walking down Kopylov and dogging him out. It was fun. It was honestly a really fun fight. Big win for Robocop. I'm always happy to see him pick up a victory, man. Kate Blanchfield strangled Tracy Cortez out there, and I was very happy to see it. I don't know what it is about Tracy Cortez. The whole build-up, the way that the UFC pushes her, man, just constantly, like her sexualization of herself, the way that the UFC promotes her, the way similar to how they fucking promote Mackenzie Dern. I just don't like it. So to see Kate Blanchfield go out there and choke her out like that was very nice, because Kate Blanchfield is actually a pretty high-level WMMA fighter, especially with her grappling. Like, yes, her striking is nowhere to write home about. Nothing to write home about, I should say, because Tracy Cortez was honestly getting the better of her on the feet until Tracy just couldn't handle the pressure any longer. But, dude, that fucking takedown when she ran her ass across the octagon was so beautiful. And, yeah, as I said, just strangled the shit out of her. Great win for Kate Blanchfield. Got that one back. I think Tracy Cortez picked up a win over her on the regional scene. So, fantastic win for Kate Blanchfield to get back. Fantastic performance. Kyle Daukaus finished one of the UFC fighters of all time. No surprise there. Right? Rocked him and then made him tap. GM3 should probably just retire. Honestly, he gets hurt way too easily. He can't even really seem to absorb a shot anymore. So, yeah, in my opinion, GM3 should retire. But Kyle Daukaus is in very good form. Finishes subs GM3 and TKOs Michel Pereira in his last two fights. it's a pretty good run that he's on right now, dude. Like, obviously it's GM3, but to sub GM3, it's no small task. So, you know what? Kyle Daukaus, he could be on a bit of a run here. The guy's back. Pat Sabatini and Maruska had a fun little scrap, right? Most of this fight was spent on the ground. There were some fun striking exchanges. Maruska did bust up the eye of Pat Sabatini real bad. But Sabatini, he showed to be even more of a dog than Maruska. There were some fun grappling exchanges here, some fun exchanges on the feet. It was a fun fight, right? There was a little bit of an eye-gouging controversy towards the end of, I think it was round 2, but I think it was just incidental. I don't believe that Maruska knew what he was doing in that moment. But imagine getting your eye gouged when you have like literally 4 cuts surrounding your eye, because dude, Pat Sabatini's eye looked like it was gonna fall out of his head. He had cuts in like 3 different areas of his eye. The shit was nasty. It was fucking nasty. But this is a fun fight, and a nice win for Pat Sabatini. He's super underrated, man. Very underrated skill set. Then we get Fatima Kline versus Angela Hill, and Fatima beat up Angela Hill for 3 rounds. Credit to Angela for even absorbing a lot of those strikes. Fatima looks like she hits pretty hard for a lady, and she has a very interesting, unique build. That hunchback of Notre Dame fucking stature that she has. I don't know, man. She looks dangerous in there. I love her boxing. I love her striking. At the very, very end of the fight, as Angela Hill and her were getting back up off the mat, she lands a back fist and then a high kick. Dude, like, credit to Angela for absorbing that. But Fatima, she might just be one of those WMMA fighters who actually like has some level of a flow state, and I really enjoy watching her fight. I do look forward to her next performance, man. I really do like her, and I back her to potentially be a champion in the future. She's pretty nasty. Sanger Susaev versus Eric Makhachev. Another pretty underwhelming performance from Susaev. He's a talented striker, but he needs to stop being so nonchalant in there, because he isn't good enough to be nonchalant in there. Like, he was tested by Tom Nolan, almost finished by Tom Nolan, and now he was like really pushed to the limit by Eric Makhachev. So like, maybe it's time to start respecting your opponents in there and not showboating, because as I said, he's just not good enough. He called out Bo Nickal. If the UFC makes that fight, I believe that they are feeding Susaev to Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal would just ragdoll this dude, I believe, even though he's Dagestani. So even though he has potential, I believe that he needs a very, very, very slow push up the rankings. He should not be forced up the rankings, because he'll get fraud checked by anyone within the rankings. Currently, he's being tested far, far too much at the lower levels of the UFC. So yeah, a slow push for Susaev, and I think he could come good, because he is a talented striker. That 1-2 he landed in the 3rd round, it was beautiful, beautifully timed, right? So he does have a lot of potential. He's not bad by any means. I'm not saying that he is a fraud. All I'm saying is that he should have more respect for his opponents, considering the level that he's shown in there. And to finish us off here, we have Borishev versus Camilo. Now, this was a decent little fight. I thought Camilo was starting to fade, especially towards the end of the 2nd round. I thought Camilo probably took the 1st. Borishev probably took the 2nd, even though it was close. And I think most judges scored at 30-27. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I do agree that Camilo won the fight. All right, he got a 2nd win in the 3rd round and secured the victory, because I think he clearly won the 3rd round. So yeah, good win for Matheus Camilo, but not sure exactly what his ceiling is, although it's good that he picked up the victory. But that does conclude my thoughts on UFC 322. Man, it was shaping up to be one of the greatest cards of all time, and it's objectively one of the biggest cards of all time, considering the stakes on the main event, the stakes in the co-main event. It just is a shame that the co-main and main ended up being extremely underwhelming. However, I just cannot deny the dominance. Very, very impressive stuff from Islam Makhachev, Valentina Shevchenko. We arguably have 2 GOATs crowned after UFC 322. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think? Do you think that Islam Makhachev is now the GOAT of the sport? Do you think he still has some work to do? Do you think Valentina is the GOAT of women's MMA, or do you think she still has some work to do? Just let me know in the comment section below whatever your thoughts were on the card, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Just let me know whatever your thoughts are in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.